Would you imagine or would you believe if I tell you that you've been programmed to be made poor, or they don't want you rich? They just simply want you to be poor. You know why? Because when you're dependent, when you're in need at all the time, you know what they say? He who feeds you controls you. This means that then, if you do not realize what exactly goes on, that you can be able to do something by yourself and create a system that works for you. Because some of the things, you know what, for example, this is why I usually have a sort of a glitch with the education system that we have, not only in Kenya, but globally. It's because they compare cat and fish to swim. And a cat will believe, or a cat will live to believe that I'm stupid. But the fish will always believe that I'm the winner. When you subject the students to one sort of a problems, someone is talented on a different thing. And again, have you ever asked yourself, why don't we have financial system or financial education or financial literacy on the education system? Why do they ignore that? Why is it like you cannot get that? Why is it that they believe that by virtue of you growing old, you should just know, you will know by yourself how you can manage your finance and grow the thing? The only thing they tell you is that work as hard as you can, get the good grades. And once you do that, then at the end of the day, you're going to be what? Get good job. And again, they just simply train you not to be a creator. They train you to be an individual who just become a good employee. And it's like they tame you. You are tamed in that particular system. And guess what happens now? What they program you or what they train you to be or search or look for is for the job. This is why people have the job mentality. And that's why we have a crazy migration from countries to countries. Why? Because they're looking for, they call them opportunities. And it's quite funny that you can see an aeroplane that is flying from Kenya to US with doctors and nurses inside of it. They're going to look for an opportunity there. And the investors are coming from the said countries. They pass by another chopper or another aeroplane, not chopper really, another aeroplane that is actually flying back to Kenya or to Kenya for people to invest. It is quite an irony. You ask yourself, why then is this happening? Why? Because of people who have what we call the job mentality. And that's why you find somebody who, for example, there's a guy in Kenya who banned his certificates. I think he had like 20 of them. I don't know. I stand corrected. You can go check that information. You can just Google, like, Kenyan guy who banned his certificates because he's earning around 120,000. He claimed that he's so much learned. He has, I don't know, it was 20 or whatever certificates. The guy is learned. So he was believing that by virtue of me going to school, learn all those things, then I'm going to go ahead and do what? Earn more. It is not the truth. There is a very thin line. Let me even put this pen down to explain. There is a difference between having the information or the education inside of you and making money out of it. Those are different things. And that's why I said, do not use book understanding, book knowledge to look for money. You won't get it. You want it, it's not there. We were never taught that. How do you monetize that? How do you monetize? How do you make money out of that what you know? That was never provided. The only way they tell you or told you is that go get those good grades, get certificates, get degrees, diplomas, whatever, master's degrees and PhDs, and then you go somewhere, you start an application with the word I beg so that you can get a job, then you solve their problems. Once you solve their problems, you become a good employee, you get the salary at the end of the month or at the end of the week or whichever the day. Then out of that, then they do the deductions, they pay you a pension. Once they pay you a pension, why? Because when you be rendered what we call retired, then you're going to rely on the pension and you're faced off, you're done, then the cycle continues. And I told you one thing, the salary that you get is actually, the correct name is wages. The wages that you get was equivalent to what the slaves used to be given. You see, back then when people never used to be paid, they were given food, they were given the clothing, they were given the shelter. Those are the three basic things they were given. Then there was this era of when people, there was revolution or whatever it is. Then people are saying like, guess what? We want to be paid. We don't want to work for free. They said, okay, fine. Then they withdrew the food, the shelter, the clothing. Then they paid you. But what they paid you was equivalent to what they was actually spending for you to cater for those things. So simply what you get is simply what they used to give you for free. So therefore, I always tell people the salary that you get ought to cater for those three basic things. Now, the problem you do is that you get salary, you take alcohol, you go do the things and all those kind of things, expecting that a miracle one day will happen, that you become wealthy. I'm telling you this, the difference between me and your pastor, probably it's the truth, is that I'm not going to sell you hope. It won't work. It is intentional. You have to do something. Job mentality, that's the first thing that they reprogram you with. The other thing is something called the safety approach of life, especially with the middle incomers. What is the safety approach of life? Safety approach of life is when they tell you, hey, go get, for example, in Kenya, we call it NNSF. I don't know, the retirement, whatever. And then there are things to do with, I don't know, it's run by RBA, Retirement Benefits Authority. There are things to do with the pension. There are things to do with the life insurance and all those kinds of things. They sell you the concept of, hey, you know what, just in case something happens, life will be okay. Your kids will be catered for. The moment they touch the emotional part when it comes to the family, the kids, the thing, the whatever, they touch you. So they tell you do this. So much, you approach life in so much caution, or you're so much cautious with life to a point where you cannot even make a step. You're so much inclined, you're so much cautious. You're taking. But if you see those people who are investing, you don't need, everything is risky, including your life. I mean, you cannot dare tell me that tomorrow morning you'll be alive. You cannot promise me that. For you to actually get an extraordinary things, you have to be an individual who take risks. And that's why if you go there, talk about investment with the people who we call them the middle incomers, they never ever understand that language. They don't. Because to them, just tell them, hey, where can I fix my money? I'll be safe, my money, I won't lose it. And then after 20 years, you can promise me I can access my money when I'll be old, when I don't have the ability to go and work again, then I can be able to eat and all those kinds of stuff. But if you would like to get that kind of a life, there's nothing wrong with it. You go ahead and do it. But if you have the inspiration, you have the zeal, the motivation that I do, then that is not the language that you should be speaking. You should be speaking a language of achieving more and more as you move to the next level. So the point should be, do not approach life with so much caution. I'm not saying you be careless. No, I'm saying just have a little bit of elements of risk inside of it. Because I always tell you, you have to have two qualities for you to be successful in life. Number one, you have to be a risk taker. Number two, you have to be a crazy in the sense that I'm not saying you be insane. I mean, like, you have to be an individual who totally thinks different from the majority. And I said, if you want to be successful, just look what the majority are doing. Don't do it. Do differently. That is it. You're going to be a quote-unquote sort of an outcast, but you're going to stand out and you're going to do something great and different from your family. Number three, they usually do what we call the design of the financial system. I'm telling you, you can't outshine it. The design of the financial system that we have, not only in Kenya, Africa, or global, you cannot outshine it. Did you know that the issue of the inflation, it is just the sense of how much money is in the circulation. And they have the ability to do that. They have the ability to just go turn the machine. You can't make money. Do you know that? Do you know that you can't make money? You attract money. You take money from people in a legal way, obviously, when you solve people's problem. You take money from them. So you can't make money. The governments are the one that does so. Or does that, or does that, whatever the thing it is. They're the one who do exactly that. So what they do, they just go to the press that presses, they turn all those machines, and then they print money. And you know what? When you print money from a thin air, you see, money ought to be accompanied with what do we call it? It should be accompanied with something called an active thing that has happened for that money to be created. For example, there was something during the corona era or something was all. So government were doing things we call the quantitative easing, whereby they were giving people stipends for the country that were managing to do that, or maybe they were actually supporting for example, in Kenya, they were given some money to support the banks, so to do. That money was being printed. Then what do you think that money ought to be earned? For example, right now, let's say, for example, if to rub this board, you're gonna give me, or I charge 100. Let's say generally, rubbing a board costs 100. So you invite me to rub your board, then you pay me 100. So that's 100 Kenyan shilling that has been earned. That has been earned. Why? Because there is a backing activities that have been engaged. I rubbed this board, I earned that 100 shilling. Maybe by virtue of me rubbing this board, therefore you can be able to teach people. Therefore as well you can be able to make money. And therefore for those who are teaching, that there is a system of things that have actually, we can justify my 100 shilling that I earned. But if the government just comes in and puts that 100 shilling into the floor, there is nothing has happened. That money has been printed in a thin air. So what do you think will happen? The inflation will happen because the balance has to happen. You get what I'm saying? I know it's a bit complicated to explain, but the point is that money is printed out there, and therefore I always tell people, do not let your money lying in the bank. You're supposed to put your money on the go. Put it in real estate. Put it on investment. Put it on where you actually caution against the inflation. Because these wonderful people that we elect them, and we are supposed to respect our leaders. I totally respect them. But the point is, the fact remains, you should invest your money throughout the time so that you caution yourself from this inflation. Because they're still gonna do this specific thing. They print the money. Point number 4, credit card cycles. In some of the countries, this has been even made easier for you to access this credit card. They even call you based on how they look at your transaction. They tell you, hey, you know what? You can get a credit card. You can get this. You can borrow that. You can now happen to be shared this information and you have a problem. You have a weakness in as far as the finances are concerned. Guess what happens now? You're going to get those credit cards and you're going to get yourself into lots of problems. Yes, indeed, you're going to get yourself into lots of problems because you don't understand when time or what particular time should it be used. Because simply these credit cards, what they do, they just tell you, hey, you know what? No problem. You can bring your future and consume it today because you arguably have a job, so you're going to pay it in future. So yeah, therefore, you just get your credit card, go buy your things because they know they just want to feed your ego and all those looks and what have you. By the time now you realize you're getting yourself in what we call the rat race. Do you know what is a rat race? Rat race is a situation whereby you work, you pay your credit card, or say you don't even have the credit card. You work, you pay your bills, the sustainables, and what have you, pay the education, the tuition, the what about, money's done. You barely can't even stand. Why? You can't even rest. Why? Because if you do that, people are only like a month or 2 from them being homeless. Now people, if you don't pay them for the next 2 months, they are done. If you're in that situation, then it tells you the kind of a lifestyle that you're living, it is not of your standard. You ought to live below your means. But dare say that to most of you guys, if I tell you live below your means, you think like I'm bad. Oh, life is short, life is for the living, YOLO. Let me tell you one thing. The moment you realize you're living from, if you're straining, this is what if you're straining maybe to pay your rent, to eat, to do all those kind of things, there's something wrong. It can be true, totally you're earning way less money, or in other words, it can be you're actually having yourself a lifestyle. You're not living your life, you're living your future life. It is not yet there, and there is nothing wrong with living that elegant life, flamboyant and what have you, whatever you're going to call it. There's nothing wrong. I love it, everyone loves it, everyone wishes for that. But the point is this, you're doing it too early, and that's why you're straining, you're struggling. And you can find, can you imagine this? Let me ask a very simple question. Do you think it's fair for someone to work almost throughout your life, maybe for the next 30 years or so, for you to own a home? Do you think, don't you see there is a glitch somewhere? Or maybe I'm thinking out loud. It is good to make sure that at least you understand these things. At least you can do something. Okay. Let's go to the last one. There is these systems that have been programmed and they are made in the way that we or most of the people become dependency on it. I understand some of these things in the systems are quite great and good. For example, securities of the countries. You see, there are people who really wish best for their people. Maybe they are the leaders. They wish best. But some of the new or few figures in there, here and there, they are sort of not so good in the systems. You find this system, the way they have been actually, sort of programmed, they are there to make sure that your dependency to it. You cannot shake the effect on your life. You really have to toe your line or toe their line for you to actually live and exist. And I'm not saying you wrestle them. No, you don't are supposed to wrestle them. You know what they say? Learn how to swim with what? Sharks. Fly with eagles. Just learn how to. Don't try to wrestle them and arm them and all do those. Just know how to survive. Just know how to be smart, how to make sure that at least you live in a life that you really don't have to sort of kind of depend with them like all the time and what have you. You never know. It is good to be careful and cautious. So if you check on all those points that I've shared with you, you find like it has been programmed for people to be sort of poor. Okay, poor. Well, I know poor is a bit relative, but it's poor in this sense. I mean, like you're unfortunate. They still, what should I say? You find that what you admire most in your life, you can see it, seems approachable or reachable, but it's not. So you are in a constant approach of it. You're in a constant approach. There is a hope somewhere that you see it. This thing can be approached. This thing can actually be reached and all those kind of things. So, but in real sense, when you try to stretch that arm to reach that thing, it's like it was an illusion. It's not there. You keep on working, you face off, another one comes in, you face off, another one comes in, you face off, another one. So by the time now you realize, no, there is a glitch somewhere. Either this thing is actually not really there, it's either an illusion of it or something of sort, or either I'm not using the correct ways or no. And for those who understand, they actually crack the code and be able to get that specific thing. And they're still great law-abiding citizens. And you can as well do that specific thing. But the moment you have this, you know what? These jobs are actually a thing that we call them dream killers. Jobs are the dream killers. You know, there's a difference between a job and a work. A job is what you are trained to do. A work is what you are created for, or is what you live for in this world. Is what you live for. Your purpose in this world. That specific, you know, for example, for those who watch football, those guys who are the best players, whether it's NFL, whether it's the soccer, whatever I think you call it, or maybe Olympics, whatever the game, those who do NBAs and whatever, that thing that guy living in, those are the purposes that they were created for. You don't need to be trained. You don't need to go to school to be like the best basketballer and what have you. Okay, well, you may need some coaching here and there and what have you to learn the rules and regulations, but you're naturally born with that talent. That's the purpose that you're created for. But you cannot be created as a doctor. That you have to be trained. But then for you to be, then you ought to have another thing that is actually has the push towards that specific. So you have to differentiate between, and that's what, it's funny. Let me, and this is what I'm going to end with. And I want you to think critically. And if you manage to watch this video to the end, I would like you to tell me on the comment section, if you manage to watch this video to the end, how come when you are choosing the careers and what have you are so happy? Oh, I love this course. I want to pursue this course. I want to pursue this career. You went into the career. What happened when you got the job for the career that you loved very much? Why then do you hate the job? Why? Where was the change? When did the change happen in between? Where was the change? Where was the glitch, if then it's a glitch? I want you to answer me on the comment section. As you look forward, if you'd like to have a conversation with me, my number is always on the description of this specific video. Grab that number, shoot me a call, then we can have a discussion. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, share it in your position too. And for now, it's a goodbye and see you in the next one.